So there was one question a while ago asked on a forum. Well, not specifically for me because I don't get asked these questions personally, but it's very rare cases it may even happen. But I kind of gave up on being in spiritual based forums and such because I kind of observed or I could feel the overall aura of those many of those Discord or whatever other groups as being kind of childish in terms of energy and being used more like for people who want to distract themselves from the mundane of the life through ideas that they have little to no experience about, and they just want to fill their minds with all sorts of ideas. So the question was very simple. Can one give an example of a cult? Well, in order to give you an example of a cult, one must ask themselves what is exactly the occult. Now, the definition of it is, well, hidden. Occult means hidden. See, occult is anything that you can do without others, like visually seeing or hearing or, well, getting in touch with based on their regular, five senses. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be this a definition, but the simple point is an occult thing is something that you do without the necessity for others to know, and it's not necessarily something that is truly physical. Yes, it is physical, but it is usually, or kind of always, much less perceptive, hence why it is, well, called as hidden. It is easier the more ignorant people are around you. So, this sick society, in order to build this sick prison that we are living in, a prison of the mind especially, well, it requires us to be ignorant and disconnected, especially from our emotions, because if something happens to you and you can't see it, you can't hear it, or things like that, well, your body has more senses that you are aware of, right? Radiations, for example, you don't see them. Well, in my case, I can hear a few of those because I have very sensitive hearing. At times, you can hear those. And no, I'm not talking about ringing in your ears or tinnitus. There are a few situations in which you can even, let's say, hear the sound of a television, for example. It has a very high pitched sound. You can hear the sound of a computer screen, maybe, or you can hear extra sounds from the computer central unit, but usually I hear the televisions. Now, the more modern ones are more silent, or the frequencies are a bit beyond what I can usually hear. But an example of the easiest example of occultism, let's say, which is, well, accessible to literally everyone, right, is, for example, emotion, right? Some people might ask, why would emotions be occult? Well, emotions themselves are not occult, but when you invest those emotions in something, you can end up doing so many things without even realizing, right? Because simply saying something without any emotion doesn't do much except just throw some sounds towards, whoever is hearing you, or thinking about some thoughts that simply are propelled, well, in whatever directions. But when you think specifically at someone and you curse them, be it with your own words or with your own thoughts, well, that is basically like casting a spell. Yes, it is something very real. A lot of people will definitely discard this. But when you swear people and you focus on them with anger, it is exactly an occult spell. See, you probably heard about voodoo and the such, where some people create a doll, they impregnate it with your energy, or someone projects mentally whatever way to you, studies a bit your geometry of the body, or if they are given a photo of you, or if they get to know your name or your address, they can find that out one way or another. What geometry your body has. And based on that, they can build a certain energy wave that, when impacting you from the range, from any range actually, anywhere on the globe, well, it can cause you some havoc in your life, it can freak you out, probably even kill you. In order for such attacks to exist, they usually have to channel for an extended period of time, or there's more people that gather and they launch such attacks together. But again, they are not guaranteed to hit the target. They can simply bounce off of the target. There are literally many parameters in here. It's not that if someone does a certain spell, it is necessarily going to hit. There are karmic aspects to it, depending on openings of people, depending on how ignorant they are, because being ignorant means you're literally an open sponge. You're opening yourself literally to anything. One reason why societies that are sick need you to be ignorant, because everything in this world is occult. Movies are occult because they have a lot of subterfuges. They have a lot of hidden meanings to them that your subconscious minds will simply absorb like a sponge, because you are never taught how to create walls, how to create a stoic way of thinking in which you accept ideas but you don't let them overwhelm you and take hold of your emotions and the such. So, with the idea of voodoo, right, or voodoo as I heard it called as well, they channel that energy that they feel about you into a doll and they pierce it with certain needles, and through that, they cause certain pain from a distance, right? They use a lot of energy, your own energy, against your own system, right? So it's the same thing with cursing. When you're cursing someone, it's usually a very weak spell, but at times it can actually cause havoc. See, there was a story in a Hindu land not long ago, or a while ago, I don't remember the times usually, and there was a king and the king suddenly fell ill. It was proven in time by one of his followers, the loyal followers. I don't remember the story exactly. That the source of the king's illness was one of the merchants. One of the merchants was so consciously thinking that the king must die because the king probably wanted to take a decision that would affect his business. And he said, well, in order for my business to thrive or for things to not change, whatever the situation was, the king had to die. So his constantly thinking that the king should die made the king feel very ill. See, such thoughts are very powerful. They will feel like, something futile to a lot of people, especially if they're slaves of the mind, because slaves of the minds are simply people who would reject anything that they cannot understand, because something that they cannot understand, something that the mind cannot understand, cannot distract them from their misery. That is the unfortunate destiny of a lot of people. But you don't have to force them into believing such things, because if someone hasn't experienced something, it's not worth mentioning too much of the inexperienced things to them, because at most it's gonna be, let's put it as a story. It's gonna be like telling them a story, because all stories have, fictitious facts, right? They're not called science fiction for nothing, right? They don't have anything scientific necessarily. They might have a bit, they might have a grain of truth as well, but usually, it's just fantasy, right? It's just imagination of the mind. However, you never know the past how it has been. Maybe, I don't know. What if those stories would be proven true? Well, a lot of people still would disregard those because they wouldn't want to give up the comfort of the prison mind that they have created, right? So, cursing other people, thinking bad things about them, is very easily an occult thing. It can be a way through which we can harm people. It's not necessarily guaranteed, but when you're focusing your energies on something, they will actually go that direction. And when you're thinking of bad things, they will go in that direction as well. They're not guaranteed to cause you the effects you may desperately need, but still, it is an attempted attack at the others. Why do you think religious writings said that, using occult is forbidden? Because don't want occultism or such practices in the wrong hands, because ignorance will use it for, total destruction. Because misery wants company, it wants more misery, right? And then using your own energy for such things will always attract the worst karma. You will see people who always curse and swear. They're always like vampires. They never have energy because it takes a lot of energy to focus on negativity constantly, right? So you will see that these people are always miserable. You can see it even on their faces. You can see pain, misery, and even in their eyes. You see that there's basically like nothing. There's no one in there, right? Well, everything has its own karma. So hopefully this video raised a bit of awareness. You're appreciated. Take care. And well, this being said, enjoy any other content on the channel. Take care. Ferenc Board signing out.